It's the Underpowered Hour. On this week's show, there's really only one thing to talk about, and that's Gerry McGovern's departure from His Majesty's JLR. And now, without further delay, here's the show. Welcome to the Underpowered Hour. I'm Steve Beres, mild-mannered television executive by day and Land Rover collector by night. You can find out more about our cars and what we're working on at theberescollection.com or follow us on Instagram at theberescollection. I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, Goss.
Thank you to everyone joining us today. I'm the functional design to Steve's reductive design. I'm the currently employed host of podcasting, Goss. I own and operate Pangolin 4x4 in Springfield, Oregon, where we live and breathe Land Rovers. Check us out online on Facebook, Instagram at Pangolin 4x4. Let's get started.
All right, Ike. Well, nothing really important happening in the news this week that I've heard. I don't know if you've heard anything that maybe is important to the Land Rover community. I'm trying to think if I've seen anything. There's this one thing.
Yeah, something ringing a bell, you know?
Sounds like your Uncle Gerry is maybe no longer employed.
Uncle Jerry's not employed. What happened?
You know, no one knows, but it sounds like there was intrigue and mystery. Yeah, it sounds
it's clouded in a veil of secrecy, much like his hair.
That's exactly right. So we got from, actually, I think the news first broke in Ascot Monthly, of which he's a contributor.
Pocket Square Weekly.
Pocket Square Weekly, yeah. He's a big contributor to both of those publications. And I guess this past week, Monday, there was a little shakeup at His Majesty's Jaguar Land Rover. New CEO from Tata has fully engaged, taken the reins there of JLR. They're through the hack and now on to building the next chapter.
Do you think a
chapter that won't include our good friend, Professor Monsignor Sir Gerry McGovern?
Yeah, speculation is swirling over the cause of his release. You know, Jerry's been a figurehead at Land Rover for quite some time, and in an era where you really have design teams, you know, he's kind of the Archduke of design over there at Jaguar Land Rover, if you will.
He really is. He really is.
Ruled
yeah,
with an iron fist? No.
Yeah, maybe something, an iron something. It wouldn't be ironed. It would be polished aluminum.
Polished aluminium
with
a totem.
With a little totem in there. It's got a little door you can open, put a little totem in there.
You know, Jerry's been a polarizing figure amongst the Land Rover community for many years. You know, I would say a lot of people credit him with sort of the ushering in of the softer era of Land Rover. Yes. Yeah, so you know, Jerry's kind of a polarizing figure in the Land Rover community. You know, half of the community thinks that Gerry is the savior of the company. You know, he took it from an era of, you know, sort of unprofitability, marginal profitability to extremely profitable. And then
that's right.
You know, the other half of the community would say that he ushered in a softer era of lamer vehicles and profited at the expense of long-term, you know, credibility.
I think, you know, like his hairline, it follows sweeping curves and large flat surfaces. And yeah, I mean, he is a interesting character when it comes to his past as well, right? Like he, you know, a lot of people, I think, over the course of this dismissal are finding out that he was the father of the Freelander. I'm interested to know who the mother of the Freelander was, but he is he sort of with that car, kind of, if you look at the Freelander, one of the most gorgeous vehicles ever designed, you can see a lot of the design lines that would later creep into every Land Rover.
Absolutely. You know, every vehicle got Freelanderized after that. So you had the, you know, the clamshell hood is the classic feature, you know, which is admittedly, something that was used on the Range Rover.
Yeah.
But he put it in the Freelander, and then, the Discovery line received that same treatment. And then the most recent Defender sort of has a similar line to the hood or bonnet. So you can see his design language. His greasy little fingers are in everything. And, for better or for worse. But I think a lot of people associate him with the Freelander. I do, but the Freelander is also a polarizing vehicle, A lot of people hate that car, and they think it's the worst thing that ever happened to Land Rover. But, you have to admit that the Freelander was immensely profitable and, allowed Land Rover to do a lot of things that they would not otherwise be able to do. But certainly he was a favorite of Ratan Tata. He kind of gave him free rein to do whatever.
Yep, it's true. And for whatever reason, we may never know. We may never know, because they're both,
I think we'll find out. This is too big of news to be quashed.
Well, of course, one line of thinking on this is, of course, the abject failure of the new Jaguar advertising campaign. I mean, you could say what you want about the car. The car is what it is. It's a concept car.
Sure.
But the advertising push and rebranding of Jaguar, I think was seen as maybe not that well received in the community.
There was a lot of negative feedback, not just from the community, within the Jaguar Land Rover group, but the community at large. Like, just the general population of Earth did not respond positively to that ad campaign. But it's also possible that something else happened. Maybe he was the hacker.
Well, I think, my working theory here is that Gerry received an email offering him some type of honorary title. And as we know, that is an email that Gerry can't refuse.
You think he clicked on a bad link and the hack is a direct result of that?
That maybe it.
What if, there's been so many Chinese, automakers that have been sort of ripping off Land Rover designs. What if he was just, dealing state secrets?
Oh, he was selling reductive design on the side?
The Chinese, yeah. You never know.
Oh, yeah.
You never know.
It's a double agent.
Well, I think speculation will continue to swirl until we get more information. But I do think it is interesting that he is, a singular figure in Land Rover design, whereas most auto manufacturers have, a team of designers that work together. And he never struck me as the type of person that worked super well with others. But I could be wrong.
Maybe.
My interactions with Gerry were pretty brief and
somewhat condescending. So it's
positive.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting. I wonder, do we worry about the English velvet pant industry and if it will get a big hit because of this?
I'm sure he will get some sort of compensation, severance package, what have you, to go away and stay quiet. So I have no doubt that Ascot industry will be just fine.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough out there, for a... Now, I wonder what is...
Merkin resellers worldwide were a little shaky ground there for a minute.
I was like, oh, no. I wonder what is the next chapter for the Gerry McGovern OBE. Will he be, will he go full time into his teaching career, which of course we know he's a professor at Coventry University, and he also does a number of speaking engagements, a number of all kinds of things, and I wonder, does that keep up? Do you still want the
I think Gerry has reached the zenith of his career and is going to coast from here on out. That's my feeling. I don't know that we'll see him at another automaker in a such a important role, but I feel like. And maybe you feel this way too, I don't know, but I feel like there's a growing resistance to, the Gerry McGovern school of design and marketing, and we're going to see probably the pendulum swing the other way.
I hope so. I mean, if you look at what Toyota is doing with Land Cruiser, certainly what Ford did with Bronco, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, they are hearkening back to a time the design is evocative, if you will, of earlier vehicles. They have lines that are similar to earlier vehicles. They are more heritage focused. I mean, if you look at Scout as a brand entirely, it is it's a revival, right? It's a heritage revival. And I think people are into it. I think it's one of those things where, growing up, you always wanted a particular whatever, right? A toy, a whatever. You never got it. And now you're, coming into a part of your life where you have the money to spend on these things and you want the things that you couldn't have then, in a way that this heritage, this rebirth, this whichever you want to call it, is becoming very popular.
Now, do you think that Land Rover is too far behind the curve on this? Like they have kind of clung to this, forward-facing, forward-looking design, reductionist, ultra-modern, ultra-luxury sort of ethos. And meanwhile, these other brands that are seeing, very strong sales with sort of retro models and retro styling, do you think if Land Rover comes late to that game, they're going to be behind the curve?
Well, it's interesting. I think for me, it gives Discovery an opportunity to get back into the conversation. And notice we really haven't seen a new Discovery design. I imagine their Discovery designs, perhaps that's what Gerry left immediately from a new Discovery presentation. And they're like, you know what? Get out of here. Get out of here. No. Security.
They're all
get this
looking
guy
the
out of
same.
here.
And that is the thing with a lot of the models, they became less distinctive, with Gerry at the helm. They all became sort of homogenous, which in a way, you could argue that vehicles that belong to the same manufacturer should have, design influences, that sort of identify that auto manufacturer. But at the same time, you don't have enough distinction between the different models to have a significant difference to a consumer.
And I think that, it's working for Range Rover, and it always sort of has worked for Range Rover. And if you look at Range Rover, it's the closest to the original Range Rover, if you squint real hard, of any of them, right? It still sort of follows a lot of the design language of the
new Range Rover is if you put a hairdryer on an old Range Rover and melted it a little bit, it just kind of the edges got softer. And
if you made one out of sand and just poured a bucket of water over it,
just kind of melted a little bit, you'd have a new
And the
Range Rover.
Defender, like it or not, people have responded to it. Incredibly popular selling car. But you look at the rest of the range, and it is a little soft, obviously. Range Rover Sport, Range Rover has always sold very well. Defender is selling super well. Discovery Sport, Evoque, Velar, all flat, right? And I think it's because, why? There's nothing. They all kind of look like the same car. The Defender or the Discovery maybe looks more like a Ford Explorer, and I think that's an opportunity, to say, okay, well, we've got these cars that aren't working for a variety of reasons, but you can, maybe a design can be made there. The problem is it takes, years to design a new car.
And this is the other intriguing thing about this, all the vehicles that Land Rover has in the pipeline are distinctively, seemingly Gerry designs.
Yes.
And so how long do you think it'll be until, we get the Gerry out of Land Rover, so to speak?
Hose off all that Gerry?
Yeah.
I mean, Gerry is a stubborn liquid to remove from your vehicle. I think we've all sort of experienced that.
No amount of soda water will remove that stain.
No, you need a pressure washer and some degreaser to get that off. So yeah, no, it's going to take a minute. I mean, no matter what, right? I would imagine the next rev of all of these vehicles, the next refreshes, which I think for Discovery is in the next year or something, they are the Gerry version of the car, right? They have to be, unless JLR is willing to scrap them and start over, which I imagine they're already starting tooling and everything for them. I don't think that's probably fiscally viable, especially given the hack and losing 25% of the British car market over that.
Maybe they lost all those designs and they're like, we got to start over anyway. So
just get the hackers ransomed all the designs for the new cars, and they're like, you know what? And that's fine. Just keep those
we've been
locked
talking about the cyber attack in terms of dollars lost, production days lost, these sorts of things. But we haven't really talked about, potential data loss, which I don't think anyone is really discussing right now.
That's true.
What did they lose in the process of this? What remains inaccessible? We don't know. We don't know. Is there engineering data that was lost? Is there like just millions of man hours of work that's gone into future models that is not going to be accessible? We don't know that.
Are there Gerry McGovern designs that are held under some type of, hacked lock and key that could be weaponized and deployed on the world later?
So, yeah, what are we going to see next? Are we going to see a situation where we're going to have an irate billionaire, who's sentimentally attached to the old Gerry McGovern designs, come out with a new competing, vehicle that's completely different to what Land Rover is currently producing?
I hope that more than anything, honestly.
The
I think that would be great. I hope so. That convertible Evoque that they made for a little while. There was somebody who was really into it. Man. I love it. And that at that point, there's enough billionaires in the world now with seemingly nothing to do that I think is a real possibility. Here's the thing. As you know, I've been waiting for a tribute Freelander. Now, we haven't seen the Chinese Freelander yet, but I've been waiting for a rebirth, if you will, of the Freelander for some time. So maybe this is it. This is the opportunity.
It's a really interesting time to be watching what's happening at Land Rover. You've had this whole electric car push, and all of the future models seem to be very reliant on electric drivetrains, and then all of a sudden that seems to be scaling back pretty substantially. Gerry is out the door, seemingly. So I think big changes are afoot at Land Rover. It'll be really interesting to see what happens. But
yeah, I agree.
Man,
it's exciting. It's exciting. What is going to be, I'm sure, an exciting few years at His Majesty's JLR, and we will be here to cover it minute by minute, day by day. And until then, we'll talk to you next week about everything exciting happening in the world of Land Rovering. And I'm going to start working on our commemorative Gerry McGovern ascots immediately after this. So
the challenge coin, Gerry McGovern challenge coin.
It's made of like felt. I was like, wow, that's weird. It's kind of soft.
It's a weird one.
I like it.
All right. Well, nice chatting, Stephen, and I will see you on the trail.
All right. See you next week.
All right. Bye.
The Underpowered Hour is produced by Liza Beres, Ike Goss, and me, Steve Beres. Pavel Svardov composed and performed our theme music. Consider supporting the show on Patreon, and if you already do, thank you. Your support makes the show possible. For even more, check out our Instagram or Facebook.